Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Ako po si Professor Nerissa Zara, Assistant Professor mula sa Language Education Area of the UP College of Education. Ang webinar na ito po, na entitled Making Learning Happen at Home, A Conversation with Parents, is brought to you by Rex Bookstore and the UP College of Education. Ang webinar na ito po talaga ay intended para sa mga magulang, ano po. Pero kung meron po ditong mga nakikinig na mga teachers, karamihan naman po sa mga teachers ay parents din. So whatever it is that you're going to learn here will still be relevant for you. Paano naman kung hindi ka parent at ikaw ay single? Relevant pa rin naman dahil teacher ka ng mga estudyante na ang mga magulang ay kailangan ng tulong ngayong darating na pasukan. So, makakatulong ka para makapag-disseminate ng mga mahalagang impormasyon, no? Para sa mga magulang, para matulungan nila ang kanilang mga anak na makapag-aral ng mabuti, no? Sa homeschooling na context natin ngayong susunod na pasukan. Mga mami, mga daddy, nung nalaman po natin na ang schooling ngayon po susunod na pasukan ay sa bahay, ano po yung naging reaction natin? No? Kayo ba ay natuwa, naging excited, medyo naging anxious, o meron ba sa inyo dyan na sobrang natakot? Ako, aaminin ko kasi parent din ako, no, ng isang high school at ng isang elementary. Nung nalaman ko na medyo na home-based na ang susunod na pasukan, medyo natuwa ako kasi ibig sabihin, hindi ko na kailangang gumising ng alas 4 every morning, no? Hindi ko kailangang mag-prepare ng baon, hindi ko kailangang maglaba ng uniform, hindi namin kailangan ng school service. So, yung mga ganong mga bagay, medyo ikinatuwa ko ng slight. Okay. Pero, like all parents, kahit na teacher ako, medyo naging anxious din ako, no? At may mga bahagi din ng idea na medyo ikinatakot ko din kasi kinwestiyon ko yung sarili ko, kaya ko bang magturo or mag-assist sa pagtuturo or sa pagkatuto ng dalawang bata, ng isang high school at ng isang elementary, and at the same time, ako ay isang guru din na kailangan ding magturo, no? Kaya ko bang balansehin lahat ng bagay na yan? So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga magulang sa ngayon, kahit nasa ang sitwasyon ka, pare-parehas tayo halos ng nararamdaman. May konting excitement, konting kasiyahan, kasi mas mapapanatili nating safe ang ating mga anak. At the same time, meron tayong mga anxieties at fears about this mode of learning, no? Okay. Bago po tayo magpatuloy, gusto ko lang pong ipaalam sa lahat kung ano ang mga bagay na sasagutin ng webinar na ito. Una, what is my role as a parent in home-based learning? So ano ba yung ating mga role bilang magulang sa home-based learning na ito, no? Tapos, dahil ang mga estudyante at ang mga bata ay nasa bahay at medyo marami-raming distractions, how do we keep them engaged in learning? And then, dahil mas mapapalaki at mapapatagal, mas mapapahaba ang kanilang online presence, no? Because of online learning, how do we promote cyber wellness at home? And then, kung halimbawa na hindi natin kaya yung home-based learning or yung school at home na klase ng format for education sa panahon ng pandemic, ano yung ating ibang options, no? And I guess before we continue, it's important to settle some terms that we often hear that people use interchangeably. So we have heard of home-based learning and homeschooling, no? Are they the same? No, mukha silang parehas. Pero magkaiba yung understanding ng disiplina pag sa terms na ito, no? Pag sinabi nating home-based learning, maaring ito yung school at home approach. Ibig sabihin, yung school pa rin ang nagfa-facilitate in general ng teaching learning process, Kaya lang, ang proseso na ito ay nagbago ng context, no? Hindi na sa eskwelahan but rather sa bahay. So, maliwanag yun, no? Ang eskwelahan pa rin ang nagpa-facilitate in general ng learning, ng teaching and learning process. Naiiba lang yung context. Nasa bahay nga lang, no? Ang homeschooling naman is more of family-led or parent-led education at home. Marami din siyang klase ng format, no? May mga homeschooling format where the family subscribes to certain services of homeschooling institutions that provide them with guidance, that provide them with support, that provide them with resources for homeschooling. Meron din namang mga format na talagang self-directed approach talaga siya, no? Where the parents look for resources themselves, they organize the learning process. So later on, we're going to talk about homeschooling. No? All right. So what are some of the parents' concerns right now? No, all of us parents are concerned about these right now. No, una, parents are busy. Totoo yan, lalo na ngayon sa panahon ng pandemic. No, busy tayo how to keep ourselves afloat. No, may mga pamilya na only one parent is working and at least one parent stays at home. At meron namang mga pamilya na both parents are working. Diba? Meron namang mga families that at the moment are both working at home but still working. Diba? Meron ding mga magulang na ang concern ay hindi sila ganun ko-confident, no, in helping their children with their studies kasi feeling nila it's beyond them. Diba? Halimbawa, yung mga magulang na hindi nakapag-aral, parang pakiramdam nila, mas alam pa ng mga estudyante, mga anak nila ang pinag-aaralan nila. So, paano sila makakatulong, no? Pero hindi naman ito talaga, kung titingnan natin, problema lang ng mga magulang na hindi nakapag-aral. Kasi kahit naman ang mga magulang nakapag-aral, ay nahihirapan din talaga sa mga lessons at topic ng mga estudyante, no, ng mga anak nila. Ako, honestly, kapag math ang pinag-uusapan, napaka-limited lang ng aking kaalaman dyan, ano. So, ganun, no? Meron palaging topics na hindi natin, na nahihirapan din tayo, no? And then, ang isa pang problem is the family does not have enough resources for online teaching. I think kapag ito ang problema, you have to be honest with the school and tell them what resources are only available at home. And if the school, for instance, says, sorry, mommy, daddy, kailangan talaga yung resources na yan eh. Kasi hindi namin ma-facilitate yung teaching learning process. Hindi namin tuturuan ng inyong mga anak kung wala yung ganyang portal, no? O kung walang ganitong laptop, walang ganitong etc. Then I think it's time to go to another school that can best accommodate your situation. Kung wala talaga, then there are other options na pag-uusapan natin later on, no? Kung ang concerns ay yung pagiging busy ng parents, kahit naman busy ang parents, there's always an adult, no? Supervising adult at home. And that supervising adult at home can at least help, no? Can share the load of assisting the child in this home-based learning environment. Unfortunately, kahit marami po tayong mga agam-agam, kahit marami tayong mga issues, kahit marami tayong anxieties and limitations as parents, wala po tayong magagawa because this is really going to happen. No? Home-based learning is really going to happen this coming school year. We don't have a choice in the matter. So, it's very important na i-embrace natin, no, ang reality na ito. And in doing that, it's important to understand how important yung ating engagement, yung parent engagement is, no, in student engagement. kahit marami po tayong mga agam-agam, marami po tayong mga worries, marami po tayong anxieties about home-based learning, unfortunately, wala po tayong magagawa because ito yung magiging reality natin, no? This coming school year. That's why we don't have a choice in the matter but embrace, no? This active role that we're expected to play this coming school year as parents, no? Kung matatandaan po natin, no, 2 days ago, si Professor Patriarca presented to us this adolescent community of engagement framework. No, this particular framework is interesting to examine because this shows to us how important parent engagement is, no, as a part of that system. So you will see in the center yung student engagement in a triangle. It's a shaded triangle. So, ibig sabihin, at this point, no, ito yung level lang ng kanyang student engagement. But note that may dotted line. You will see a dotted line here. What does the dotted line say? Ito yung potential ng student engagement. Note that there are three forces that actually can be pushed forward so that you can increase student engagement. And what are these? No? Yung teacher engagement, peer engagement, at parent engagement. No? Siya pa yung strategically talaga placed in the middle. No? So, these forces widens. These forces widen student engagement. So, ibig sabihin, if we do this well, no, there's a potential to widen yung student engagement. Aside from the fact that yung parent engagement is really essential in increasing student engagement, you have to understand that every learning system, may it be a face-to-face or distance learning, home-based learning like this, it's always a dynamic system. When we say it's a dynamic system, it means that it's composed of interrelated parts that must function together in a planned and strategic way in order to achieve learning outcomes. So, para siyang isang machine na may isang iba't ibang klase ng part and each part performs a particular role. No? At in home-based learning, as a dynamic system, yung home is a part of that system. Yung parent and the child, of course, are essential parts of that system. And all these parts, yung parent, yung home, yung child, all have roles to play, so that the system will work. Okay. So ano ba ang role nating mga magulang sa dynamic system na ito ng home-based learning, ang sabi ng studies of education reform, parents are primary resource in the education of our children. So, note, highlight on primary resource. Tayo daw yon. Napaka-importanting resource daw nating mga magulang sa pag-aaral ng ating mga anak. In fact, I have read this particular blog from a Singaporean parent. She said that parents can reclaim their roles as the main purveyor and steward of our child's education and well-being instead of outsourcing it to schools and teachers as many have done. So sabi niya, this is an opportunity. This time, this imposed home-based learning is an opportunity to reclaim our roles. Our role as main purveyor and steward of our child's education. Kasi kung iisipin natin, tatandaan natin in ancient societies talaga, yung community and family are the main institutions for learning, diba? Young children, they learn through apprenticeship. So, magitan ng pagtuturo sa kanila ng kanilang mga magulang, ng essential life skills, diba? At ng community ng kanilang elders, yun yung pinaka-unang forms of education, diba? Until much later on, when the state stepped in, because the state thought that there are essential values, that citizens should learn, to become productive citizens, to participate better in the workings of the state. Nauso yung mass education, So, yung education now becomes the burden of the state. So, doon nag-start yung mga yung ganitong klase ng education, no? But then, essentially talaga, mga magulang at ang community talaga ang in charge, no? For student learning. So, ang sabi niya, itong home-based learning, itong forced na home-based learning is actually an opportunity to reclaim that role. No? Do you agree? Okay. So, what does it really mean to be the primary source? No? Anong ibig sabihin nun? So, according to literature, merong tatlong important na roles, no, in being the primary source for our children's education. Number one, parents as designers, no. Parents design the learning environment and provide structure for learning. Parents as tutors, no. Parents assist their children in the learning process, no. And then parents also act as supervisors because parents guide and monitor their children in accomplishing their tasks. No, let's take this one by one. So first, parents as designers. How do parents become designers? Paano po nagiging designers ang mga magulang? So number one, ang mga magulang helps design yung learning and study schedule of their children. So, syempre, merong merong mga time talaga na naka-block for yung synchronous engagements with the school, no? But then, the rest of the time, it has to be planned, no? So that maging organized ang schedule ng mga bata. And the parents will have to do that. No? In the beginning of the school year, the child and the parent should talk together kasi the schedule has to be negotiated with the children. Okay? And then they have to work out a certain schedule where they can balance academic activities and physical activities, no? And all important activities that the child is supposed to accomplish, no? So, dapat may academic, may physical, dapat daw may recreational time, may snack time, and a non-negotiable sleeping time. Okay? So, that's one way by which parents become designers. They design schedules, they design routines, no? Parents also design learning environments kasi parents set up conducive environment for learning. So sabi nga nung isang website na aking nabasa, maganda daw na ang mga bata should have a specific area in the house, no, where they are supposed to study, no. At dapat designated talaga yung area na yon para sa pag-aaral ng bata, para yung area na yon is associated for academic activities. No? Ang next role naman ay parents as tutors. No? Ang parents naman talaga are technically not teachers in the home-based learning environment. Meron talaga silang teachers that are primarily in charge of facilitating the teaching. But what parents can do is to be a tutor to their children. But when you are a tutor, number one, syempre, you do not do your children's work for them. Diba? No matter how tempting it is, just to get the work done. Because yung tasks that children are supposed to do, may purpose yun. May reason kung bakit kailangan nilang gawin yung mga tasks na yun. At kapag ginagawa siya ng mga magulang, no, hindi na accomplish yung purpose for that task. Because the task is probably there to teach us to enhance a particular skill or to teach a particular concept. Kapag kasi mommy at daddy ang gagawa, hindi yun hindi may enhance ng bata yung skill at hindi niya ma-acquire yung knowledge or concept that he or she is supposed to acquire. So, never na dapat parents ang gagawa ng trabaho. But sometimes I know it can be very tempting, especially kapag gusto mo nang matapos ang trabaho. As parent tutors din po, no? So, dapat we help our children to achieve the learning outcomes. So, dapat sa bawat lesson, alam ni mommy at daddy kung saan hahanapin yung learning outcomes na kailangang i-achieve ng kanyang anak, no? So, pag sinabi po nating learning outcomes or mga learning objectives, ito po yung mga goals, no, for the teaching and learning process. Kumbaga, sa lesson na ito, ano po yung ini-aim na ma-achieve ng lesson? So, dapat alam po natin yun para magabayan natin sila in achieving these goals, no? It's very important din po to know the strengths and difficulties of our children in terms of studying. Alam natin kung saan sila mahina at saan sila magaling, no? At kung para alam po natin kung saan natin sila matutulungan, anong aspect ng lesson nila kailangan ng tulong natin. And then when we teach, we emphasize daw po yung mga key skills only, kumbaga yung mga threshold skills, no? Yung mga skills na kailangan nilang matutunan just to get there, no? Hindi naman yung lahat ay ituturo sa kanila, no? Yung mga fears po ng parents about yung difficulty of teaching certain concepts because they do not feel confident, no? Feeling nila yung pinag-aralan nila, nakalimutan na nila or hindi enough para i-assist yung mga anak nila in particular lessons. Technically speaking, mga learning packets po talaga are designed to be self-contained. Kahit ang mga textbooks po, designed po talaga siya to be manageable enough for children to understand on their own. Diba? So, kailangan talaga ay minimal guidance na lang, no, from the parents, kasi talagang if the materials are done well, dapat kaya siya ng mga bata to understand on their own. Dapat yung materials din have provisions for self-remediation, diba? So kaya kung merong mga difficulties ang mga bata at tutulungan sila ng mga magulang, the materials should be easy enough for both parents and children to understand. Okay? Kung talagang sobrang mahirap at hindi kaya, no, ng self-contained learning packets, then pwede naman humingi ng tulong kay teacher. Pero wag lang yung tipong lahat na lang ay ihihingi ng tulong din kay teacher, no? So try din nating i-limit yung mga assist na hinihingi natin from the teachers. Paano naman po yung ating role as a supervisor? So, first, no, it's important that we guide our children in following routines and schedules. Di ba kanina, doon sa pagiging designers natin, we help design routines, no, structure at home. So, kailangan tulungan natin yung mga bata to follow the routines and the structure, di ba? Tapos, we have to make sure that they're on task. Diba? We have to check on their assignment, activities, and projects. So, kahit na busy tayo, pag uwi natin sa bahay, we have to ask, no? So, what were you able to accomplish today? So, what weren't you able to accomplish? Okay? And then, so that we can help our children better, it's important that we know how the delivery mode works. No? Ano yung mga resources that are available for our children, and we have to understand how these resources work. For instance, yung mga objectives, kailangan alam natin kung ano ibig sabihin yan at kung para saan yan, no? Yung mga ganon, yung mga different parts. At dapat alam natin how to navigate the learning management system too. Diba? And then it's as part of supervising our children, kailangan i-monitor ang kanilang pace. No? We have to make sure na nakakasunod sila sa pace ng klase. Pero syempre, intindihin din natin ang sarili nilang pace kasi iba't iba naman ang context, no, ng mga estudyante. Normally, teachers naman give a particular schedule when certain tasks should be accomplished. At syempre, we have to monitor yung pace ng children natin in such a way na makaka-accomplish siya ng task within the set time allowance, no? And then it's very important to establish a standard kasi kung mag-supervise ka, you tell your children what to do and what not to do, syempre kailangan may standard na pinipeg. So it's good daw to set naman a high standard but at the same time be flexible to consider din yung context of our children. Aside from fulfilling our roles, di ba, as tutors, as supervisors, as designers, how else can we increase learning engagement? So I have here 4 points, no? 4 ways by which we can do that. So we have to make learning authentic. We can foster a sense of competence, promote mastery orientation, and develop self-regulation. We will discuss each of them one by one. So first, we can increase learning engagement by making learning more authentic. Pag sinabi po natin na making it more authentic, syempre, we would like our child to see the relevance of what they're learning, no? Even teachers do this too. Kung nag-aaral sila tungkol sa COVID-19, for instance, kailangan they have to understand and we can emphasize to them why they need to learn such topics and skills. No? We can help teachers in doing this. And then, it would be good to utilize community resources to anchor learning. Halimbawa, ang discussion is on ECQ, on COVID-19. So it's maybe so that our children can understand the concept better, pwede i-contextualize siya sa kanilang sariling konteksto, no? Kung paano, for instance, ini-impose ang ECQ sa barangay, sa kanyang sariling city, yung mga ganyang klase ng knowledge, no? Halimbawa, they're learning different bodies of water. When you give examples, then you give examples that they have already seen in the community, halimbawa, no? And then let's focus on practical applications of skills. So, like yung seeing relevance, kailangan makita din nila how the skills that they're learning can be practically applied, no, in real life. Ano ba yung purpose niyan? Is it just learning it for the sake of learning it? Syempre, we have to emphasize that they're learning certain skills so that they can apply it in real life because there's a particular practical application for this later on. And then, it would be good to encourage them to produce authentic outputs or authentic applications of what they're learning. Halimbawa, if they're learning waste segregation, waste management, etc., they can apply that at home, no? By, for instance, making segregated garbage bins, di ba? So, kung ano man natutunan nila, apply na nila, no? Sa context. So, this is how we make learning authentic, no? Next is fostering sense of competence, no? Ang ibig sabihin daw po nito ay tuturuan natin ang mga anak natin na magkaroon ng kumpiyansa sa sarili nilang kakayahan. Paano po ito nade-develop sa mga bata? Ano? Napakahalaga po dito yung pag-encourage sa kanila to achieve certain standards. We set a certain standard, no, and we help our students to achieve that kind of standard. So, number one, we encourage our children to go beyond their current level of performance. We always emphasize to them that they can always do better. Okay. So, this is already good, no, but they can still do better. They can still improve. No? They can always push themselves harder. They can always, if this is their limit, baka naman you can still go beyond it, no? As opposed to sabihin natin sa kanila na maging content na lang sila with what they can do now, no? Palaging i-motivate ang children to go a bit further, no? And it's important daw to commend effort rather than ability. Halimbawa, instead of saying na, ang talino naman ang anak ko, naka-perfect sa quiz, mas pwedeng i-emphasize yung effort by saying, ang sipag ng anak ko at ang sipag naman ng anak ko, naka-perfect siya kasi nag-aral siya ng mabuti. Diba? So, it's the effort that we commend rather than the ability. Kasi, pag ability ang in-emphasize natin, minsan, pag naisip ng mga bata na I'm not born with that kind of ability, hindi na nila iisipin na kaya na nilang mag-accomplish ng certain things, no? But if you always commend effort, they get to realize that as long as I exert effort, as long as I try my best, there will be rewards, no? And then encourage the habit of self-assessment of their own skills. So children have to know that um, their skills are always a work in progress, diba? That at the moment, no, there are things that you will be able to do and things that you will not be able to do. And it's important to know where you are in terms of accomplishing that skill. And it's a skill, it's something that has to be developed among children, no? And then it would be good not to compare your child with other children. If you compare, you teach them to compare their previous performance to the current performance. No? So it's a more positive outlook at comparison rather than comparing with other children. Why not compare themselves with their own performance, no? So that they can see how much they have improved. Next is promoting mastery orientation. Yung mastery orientation as a concept actually came from goal achievement, no, orientation theory. So, yung sinasabi ng theory na ito na may dalawang klase ng goals, no? Goal orientations. So, yung mastery orientation at yung performance orientation. Pag mastery orientation, ibig sabihin yung child is focused on learning and self-improvement. So, mas intrinsic yung motivation for learning kasi gusto niya matuto dahil gusto niya ma-improve, no? Or naturally curious siya at gusto niya talaga yung malaman. Yung isa naman is performance orientation is more socially oriented. Ang ibig sabihin ay mas extrinsic yung goal orientation. Halimbawa, ginagawa niya kasi gusto niya ng maayos na grades, gusto niya ng mataas na score, etc. No? So, to promote student engagement, no, mas ina-advocate yung promoting mastery orientation or yung mas authentic at mas intrinsic na motivation for learning. So, how do we parents help our children to achieve mastery orientation? Number one, it's important daw to give our children options in everything. Okay? And that these options, they have consequences. Okay? Sometimes it leads you to positive consequences, sometimes to negative outcomes. Okay? So that they will know, they will learn to value decision making, diba? And making choices. And then we emphasize learning from mistakes. So that every task, no, is a work in progress and mistakes are a part of the process of learning. No? And then when we give feedback, it's important to give high value feedback. When we say high value feedback, we give specific feedback. Diba? As much as possible, we give positive and diagnostic and constructive feedback. So, kung maganda ang trabaho, bakit siya maganda? Ano yung ikinaganda ng trabaho? Hindi lang basta, ang galing naman ng trabaho mo, anak. Dapat explain, no? Maganda yung trabaho mo kasi nakulayan mo ng maayos yung bulaklak, ang tingkad ng mga kulay, ang ganda ng mga shapes. So, dapat specific yung feedback, no? At the feedback also has to give children a concrete idea on how to improve their work. Diba? So yung last in that list, no, in developing learning engagement is to develop self-directed learning among our children. What is self-directed learning? No? It is a psychological process of learners that purposefully direct themselves to gain knowledge and understanding on how to solve problems. It's about being an independent learner. It's about having their own individual culpability, no, for learning, no. It's about having the initiative to pursue their own personal learning goals, to set goals and to pursue these goals. So it really means taking an active role in their own learning. So medyo mataas na goal siya, no? Para sa mga bata. Merong self-directed learning model na nagsasabi na ang self-direction for learners is already the highest, no? Yung ganong klase ng active engagement. Before you get there, no, kailangan mo munang maging dumadaan muna sa stage ng pagiging dependent learner ang mga bata, no? Where they rely on their teachers or parents to learn, no? And then they become interested learners, no? When they become motivated and their interest is ignited. And then, itong interest na to can go deeper to become engaged learners. So, nagiging involved learners na sila or deeply engaged in their own learning. And then, when they take a more active role, no, then they become self-directed learners because now they set their own goals for learning and they make strategic decisions and actions to achieve these goals. No, then they become self-directed learners. No? But how do we develop self-direction? No? As parents, paano po natin tutulungan yung mga anak natin na maging self-directed na learners? No? Una, we encourage daw goal setting. So, we encourage our children to establish their own goals. Ano ba yung mga goals nila to accomplish? No? Pwedeng long-term goals, na we break down into short-term goals, but let's motivate them to establish their own goals, no, for learning or for other things too in life, etc. And then we encourage choice making. We encourage decision making. So that we don't make important decisions for them. We present them with options and they make the choices. And because it's important for them to realize that choices have consequences. Okay? The consequences may be good, may be bad, so that they will learn how to make choices carefully. Okay? And then to own up their own choices too. Diba? And then we encourage curiosity. Diba? Because that's how we motivate them to explore. Okay? And then we motivate them to learn new things. No? And then they can view problems as a challenge. Ang daming problems, maybe personal, maybe social problems, etc. Problems are everywhere, but our children have to know that problems have solutions. Problems are challenges. Okay, they are not impossible to solve. So encourage them to innovate, to think outside of the box, no, to think of possible solutions to problems, no. At connected din, no, in motivating them to learn new things, no, let's encourage our children to pursue their own interests. So, dapat alam natin kung ano yung mga interests ng mga anak natin and to encourage them to pursue it further. Okay? Ano yung mga opportunities that will allow them to be able to do that, and let us support that kind of action. So again, we improve learning engagement at home by making learning authentic, by fostering a sense of competence, no? By promoting mastery orientation rather than performance orientation, and then by developing self-regulation. Okay? And then, dahil nga ang mga anak po natin will have increased online presence, no, because of home-based learning, because of this particular format of education, it's important that at home, no, we promote cyber wellness. And pinili ko po itong material. Marami pong mga resources, no, online on promoting cyber wellness. Pero I particularly selected itong galing sa Ministry of Education ng Singapore, no. Ang galing nila kasi like us, mag-home-based learning din sila, and because of that, no, they have parent toolkit. It's a list of resources for parents to assist them in helping their children learn in this mode of education. So, isa ito doon sa kit na yon, no? Itong promoting cyber wellness. I selected this kasi it's really directed for parents, no? At napakasimple niyang intindihin. So, you can actually access that online, no? So how can we promote cyber wellness at home, no? Number one, guide your child on time spent online. So sabi sa material, importante pag-usapan daw ng parent at child, no, ang kanyang mga online engagements. Pwedeng pag-usapan kung ano yung mga activities na gusto niyang ginagawa online. Ano yung mga sites na gusto niyang laging binibisita. Mabuti daw na mapag-usapan ito ng magulang at ng child para makapag-negotiate kung ano yung hindi pwede at kung ano yung pwede. Okay? And then number 2, it's important to teach our children to stay safe online. And this is very, very important. It's very important for our children to know that the internet is not a safe place. There are many unscrupulous people who are lurking there in the cyberspace. So it's very important to protect our children from them. At ang dami-dami ng mga news, no, na naririnig natin kung saan napahamak ang mga bata dahil sa online or dahil sa internet, no. So kaya napaka-importante to protect them from that. So the material suggests the following. So we tell our children not to chat with strangers online, okay, especially people that they don't know. And even if these people pretend to be people they know, like family members, they have to verify, no, yung identities of people that they talk to online. And then that they do not give important information, syempre, di ba? And then, turuan daw ang mga bata to set very strong passwords, no? And then to ignore suspicious links or files. Yung mga pop-up, di ba? Pag nanonood ka ng video, ganyan, bigla na lang may mga magpa-pop up. So, teach them to ignore those links and files. And what dangers lurk in these suspicious links and files. And then, it's important daw that we encourage our children to tell us kung meron silang mga uncomfortable experience online. No? Or if there are people that they're engaging online that make them uncomfortable, okay, it's important that we tell them to tell us, to have conversations about these things. No? Kasi baka mamaya, hindi natin alam, they're already engaging with people online na talaga namang hindi mapagkakatiwalaan. So, importante na ititrain natin yung mga anak natin na magsabi sa atin ng mga ganitong mga bagay. At maging komportable sa atin sa pagsasabi ng mga ganitong bagay. At dapat alam nila kung bakit, no? Kasi nga, maraming mga taong hindi mapagkakatiwalaan in the cyberspace. And then, let us guide our children to behave responsibly online. Una, they have to verify information that they get online and make sure that they consult multiple credible sources. No? Maraming mga interesting conspiracy theories online, maraming mga disinformation, misinformation online, and it's never too early to teach them how to verify information. Okay? And then in posting content online, MOE of Singapore suggests to use think. Okay? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So use this framework in posting content online. So if what you're going to post online is none of these, then better not post it. No? Because this task can get really overwhelming. Especially for parents who will be doing this for the first time. When I say doing this for the first time, I mean being more actively engaged, no, in their children's learning. It can really get very much overwhelming. But it's important to remember that we are a part of a system. We are a part of a community. No? That whenever we have problems, there are people that we can turn to and ask for help. We can communicate with teachers and the school. The school provides support. There are guidance counselors. There's technical support available. So it's important to maximize this help, this support, in case we need them. So it's important to understand that we are not alone in the work. It would be good to interact with other parents too, so that you know what they're doing and how they're doing things, and to copy best practices from other parents, and to share these best practices too. Now, if the school at home approach, will not work for you for some reason, feeling natin, hindi natin kaya yung tuition fee because of the pandemic, uh, kulang ang ating resources, then maybe we can consider other options, no? I remember some parents were asking before, what happens if our children do not go to school this year? Sabi ko, di they miss 1 year, but it's all right, no? Because they can always come back. But while they're at it, pwede namang they can use their time productively too. Pwede silang i-homeschool ng parents while they're not enrolled in a particular school, no? For some reason. It's important to note that homeschooling is a legitimate way, of educating our children. It's totally valid and acceptable. Kasi ito yung fears ng mga magulang, no? About homeschooling. In fact, if you look at the pathways and equivalencies in basic education from the policy guidelines of the K-12 basic education curriculum, you will find homeschooling there as part of the formal education system. No? At there are many different formats. No? May mga formats that are already towards the alternative learning system side. And even these types of formats, they're still part of the system. No, you can still be integrated in the formal educational system. So never fear. Even if you miss school for 1 year, but if you decide to integrate after a year, there are ways to do it. No? Okay. So what is homeschooling? It's more of a parent-led, home-based system. And there are many different formats, like what I said earlier. So homeschooling has many different formats. There are the kinds where family and parents, they subscribe to homeschooling institutions that provide guidance and resources to parents. So somehow it makes learning easier, but I think the cost is not necessarily cheap. And then there are also some support systems, so support groups of parents who are homeschooling their children. In fact, ito yung HAPI, yung Homeschool Association of the Philippines. So after homeschooling, and now you decide to reintegrate them into the formal educational system, there are ways to do that. They have to take a test. They can take the Philippine Educational Placement Test, or PEP test, or the ALS Accreditation and Equivalency Assessment and Certification. So how are they different? Yung PEP test is really curriculum-based. So it still places you. So ang test ay based pa rin sa curriculum. So depending on the level where you want to integrate, that's also the test that you're going to take. So kung mapasahan mo siya, grade 3, no? Tapos gusto mong i-integrate yung anak mo sa grade 3, then sa grade 4, kailangan mapasa niya yung PEP test ng grade 3 para patunayan natin na ready na siya to take grade 4 kasi na-take niya naman yung competencies for grade 3 students. No? So, yun yung PEP test. Yung ALS, ANE naman, or ALS Accreditation, Equivalency, Assessment, and Certification, ito naman yung test na tinitake ng mga ALS students. No? How is it different from the PEP test? Ang PEP test kasi is curriculum-based. Ang ALS naman is based on the curriculum of ALS, which is based on practical life skills. No? Just to share a personal story, my brother became so sickly when he was in first year high school na-interrupt yung kanyang pag-aaral at dahil doon tinamad na siyang pumasok. So, medyo tumanda siya ng konti at ang mga dati niyang kaklase ay nasa college na. Tapos naisipan niya, gusto niya bumalik sa pag-aaral. So, what he did was to study and he took the ALS ANE exam. Tapos nakapasa siya. Tapos meron siyang certificate, no? Tapos natatandaan ko pa nung magte-take siya ng college entrance exam, dala-dala namin, ay yun lang certificate na yun. Wala siyang ibang requirements. At kabadong-kabado pa ako kasi iniisip ko na baka walang tatanggap sa kanya. Baka at the end of the day, itong certification na to is useless. But as soon as we presented the certification, yung certificate na yun, binibigyan na agad siya ng chance to take the test, no? Hindi na siya hinihinga ng kahit ano pang requirements. So my brother graduated and now he's already training manager of a multinational company. So it's one of the success stories. No? So wag tayong matakot, no? Na kung halimbawang feeling natin ay hindi talaga natin kayang isupport yung education ng ating children at the moment in the formal schooling kasi mahal at nawalan tayong trabaho, wala tayong pera, wala tayong gadgets, etc. May mga alternative means naman, no? You can consider yung homeschooling, no? And then they can just take the test after, as long as we help them achieve the competencies they need to take the test. Okay? So in conclusion, parent engagement is essential in developing student engagement. But how do we exercise parent engagement? We do that by fulfilling the different roles that we're expected to play as primary resource in home-based learning. So we become parents that are designers, we become parents that are tutors, and we become parents who are also supervisors. And there are also other strategic actions that we can do to develop learning engagement at home. We can make learning authentic, we can foster a sense of competence, promote mastery orientation, and develop self-regulation. And because the current situation is really taking a toll on all of us, things can get really, really overwhelming for parents. We're worrying about our health, our family's health, our family's financial situation, maraming mga nawawalan ng trabaho. Tapos ito pa, we also have to take active part in helping our children study. So it can really get overwhelming. So in all this, let's not forget self-care, because we will not be able to help other people if we will not take care of ourselves too. So the presentation ends here, and these are my references. Let's not forget that education is a right. Ang edukasyon ay karapatan. So therefore, students must learn. Ang mga estudyante, ang mga bata ay dapat matuto sa kahit anong paraan. So thank you for listening. Stay strong and stay safe. Now I'm ready for your questions. So, bago ko po sagutin yung mga katanungan dito, gusto ko munang pasalamatan ang lahat ng nakinig kanina sa presentation. Nakita ko sa comments, ang mga participants natin come from different parts of the Philippines. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Sana marami sa kanila ay magulang who found this webinar relevant. Meron ako ditong 2 questions na sasagutin. Kung meron pa kayong katanungan, magtanong lang kayo. Meron pa naman tayong oras para sagutin yung mga tanong na yan. So itong unang tanong ay galing kay Maria Dolores Carino. So how can we make our children attentive and engage in online learning? So I think the entire presentation really is about that talaga. It's not something that can be done in 1 or 2 strategies only. It's really a matter of making sure it's really a collaborative action from parents. Diba, nakita natin kanina yung Adolescent Community Engagement Framework, yung ACE, diba? So, ang parent is just one part of that component. Dapat ay magtulungan ang school at ang home, para ma-promote ang student engagement. Sa part ng parents, kailangan natin ng monitoring, kailangan natin ng supervision, And at the same time, we have to develop more intrinsic, parang reasons, more intrinsic motivations and goals for students to develop engagement. Katulad ng sinabi natin kanina, kailangan ma-develop natin muna sa kanila yung self-direction. Kung meron silang self-direction, di ba, mas engage sila more authentically in the learning process. Kasi they set their own goals for learning, no? At they pursue these goals. At if they see, di ba, sabi natin kanina, if they see that what they're learning ay relevant to their lives, what they're learning are practical skills, practical life skills, then most likely, mas magiging engaged sila. So they're not looking at their coursework, at their subjects as just mere subjects for passing, but really instruments for them to be better people, no? To help society, to help their families, no? Sa nakikita nila yung relevance na natutunan nila. And as long as we make learning relevant, I think it would not be very difficult to make our children engage in learning, no? Ito naman ay kay Miss Cameron Avila. So, what is your stand po of letting our children give their cell phones to their parents at night before they go to sleep? You're asking about my personal stand. Ang personal stand ko ay, syempre, dapat naman talaga merong non-negotiable na sleeping time. At ang sleeping time na yan, kahit anong oras ay dapat i-impose. At pag sleeping time, syempre walang gadgets. No? I remember, nung face-to-face pa ang mode of learning, yung aking high school na anak, he would beg me to stay up late kasi sabi niya, ma, hindi pa tapos yung aking assignment, tatapusin ko muna. And I would insist, I'd say, no, you have to sleep. No, because sleeping is important. It doesn't matter whether you fail in that assignment or not. I want you to sleep on time because this is about your health. This is about your well-being. No, no amount of grade will be able to. Kumbaga, hindi mas importante sa akin ang health mo rather than your grades. Ibig sabihin, para sa akin, no, ibig sabihin, kung ang coursework mo, ang assignment mo ay hindi mo magawa at a certain time of the night, ibig sabihin, binigyan ka ng teacher mo ng too much work. And I don't think it's right. So, okay lang sa akin kung hindi ka makakuha ng magandang grade dahil lang natulog ka. Matulog ka pa din. So, ganoon din pagdating sa gadgets. No? At I think nasabi natin kanina na pagdating sa rules on gadget, on online engagements, it's important that we talk it out with our children, di ba? That we negotiate it with them. Hanggang anong oras lang sila pwedeng maglaro, pag-usapan, hindi naman yung si mommy lang ang mag-i-insist, no? It's important to talk about it. Hanggang kailan sila pwedeng gumamit ng gadget? Ano lang yung mga sites na pwede nilang puntahan at i-visit. And I think when it comes to these kinds of negotiation, it's important to explain to them kung bakit mo ini-insist yung stand mo na kailangan matulog sila at kailangan ay hindi sila sumobra, no, sa 10:00 ng gabi at kung bakit hindi nila pwedeng gamitin ang nila habang para makantukin sila, no. Ito is from Joey Morales. What happens to assessment of students who are in far-flung areas? Can parents administer it? Yung mga ganitong scenarios, I think naman ay napag-isipan na ito ng Department of Education. Di ba nga, in previous webinars, nasabi na may mga different ways of reaching our students in different areas. Hindi lang naman kailangan, hindi lang online, di ba? May mga learning packets, may mga printed learning packets. Hindi naman kailangan online. At kapag printed learning packets, these are materials that are really self-contained. Ibig sabihin, pati ang assessment are already built into it. Okay? So, hindi natin yun, huwag tayo masyadong mag-alala because the Department of Education has already thought about this, no? Yung tanong pala ni Joey before I forget, yung can parents administer it? Yes, because if the learning packets are done well, no, it's supposed to be self-contained. It has all the help you need to be able to understand the material in order to facilitate it. At ang maganda ring learning packets, if it's intended with the help of parents, meron din siyang guide for the parents to use. Okay? Napaka-importante nga na bago tayo magsimula talaga ng home-based learning, dapat magkaroon ng thorough orientation ng parents, no? Kung paano nila talaga tutulungan ang mga bata. It's important that yung school orients the parents when it comes to resources that are available and how to use these resources, how to navigate in the system. Okay, so it's very important. If parents are to be partners, parents have to be oriented about these things. At napaka-valuable na knowledge ito para sa atin, mommy, daddy. So pag nag-offer ang school ng ganito, orientation, kailangan attend talaga tayo, no? Okay, para malaman natin. Okay. Kay Miss May Ann Daroy, how to encourage and enlighten the parents who are not interested in helping their child to learn. Medyo nakakalungkot yung tanong na ito, no? Gusto kong maniwala na walang parents na ganito, na talagang hindi interesadong tulungan ang kanilang mga anak na matuto. Gusto kong maniwala na being parents ay very intuitive pa rin sa atin. Kasama sa ating kalinga ay bigyan ng assistance ang ating mga anak sa education na kailangan nila para maging productive members of society para sa kanilang kinabukasan. So gusto kong maniwala na walang ganon, no? Kasi kung yun ang tanong, kapag hindi interested ang parents in helping their children, parang wala akong sagot doon. Kasi hindi na nga sila interested. Diba? Bakit? Bakit hindi sila interested? That's something to think about. At siguro, mangilan lang naman ang parents na ganito. At baka meron silang kakaibang mga pinanggagalingan. Kasi I think, kahit yung pinaka-busy na parents, no, meron din silang interest patulungan ang kanilang mga anak na matuto. And they exert effort to make sure that they provide, no, support in place for their children to learn. Kung hindi sila, yung responsible adults at home, yung mga ate, yung mga kuya, diba? As far as I know, ALS is for out-of-school students who goes back to school after stopping for years. They took a curriculum design for it. Why is ALS be an entry point to formal schooling when student is in homeschool curriculum? Miss Lalio, ang sabi ko kanina, diba, may dalawa tayong options, diba? Pinakita natin kanina, if you remember, yung diagram from the DepEd at yung modes of integration. Diba may dalawa siyang arm? Meron siyang formal at saka meron siyang ALS. Ang sabi ko kanina, yung homeschooling is a part of the formal educational system, di ba? At marami siyang different kinds of format. Sa atin, yung homeschooling natin is still largely curriculum-based, no? And ang entry point mo dito is PEP test, di ba? Is PEP test. So, ang PEP test is curriculum-based pa din. Pag sinabi natin curriculum-based, no, ang ititake pa rin nilang test ay based on the level, no? Ang sinabi ko kanina ay meron ding mga klase ng homeschooling options na it's self-directed learning options which are already almost like, no, ALS. And in fact, no, kung ganun yung ating format, the students can take the ANE accreditation. And from experience, sa family namin, nagawa namin yun, no? Ang kapatid ko studied on his own. No? He attended several sessions of ALS classes and then he studied on his own and took the test. And he was able to pass. Okay. So, Miss Delma Bauzon, how can we make students focus during discussions when we do not really see all their movements at all? It's hard inside the classroom, much more online. So, ito ang pinakamalaking concern ng mga teachers ngayon, di ba? Kaya ang sabi natin, there was already a webinar on this, no, on learning engagement and how students can develop learning engagement. At ang sinasabi namin, ang stand namin sa series ng webinar na ito, it's really a systems perspective. No, it comes from the teacher and yung support ng parents sa bahay. Katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, kung halimbawa, ang kanilang pinag-aaralan is something relevant for them, something authentic and practical skills for them, most likely they will be engaged in learning, no? Kaya ang challenge para sa atin is to make sure that they are engaged, no? That we make sure that what they're learning is relevant for them para mas authentic yung engagement. What's your thought about parents who are getting an outside tutor who assists kids and maybe just beside them all the time? Medyo hindi ko naintindihan yung tanong. Ang ibig ba sabihin nito ay yung mga tutors primarily assisting the students to learn. Ako naman, I don't really have a problem with this. Siyempre, mas gusto natin yung magulang sana para mas mas iba yung kalinga, no? Rather than parang profit motive. No? But then, may mga situations kasi na ang parents cannot really handle it, and so therefore they subscribe to services of tutors. So personally, wala naman akong problema doon. Lalo na sa ganitong sitwasyon, ano. Pero yun lang, sana din lang yung parents, even if there are tutors around, no, minomonitor pa rin natin kung ano yung ginagawa ng tutors. Kasi I remember, may mga experiences yung students ko before na masyado silang comfortable sa tutors nila na they can get away with whatever they want, no? Hindi na sila masyadong nag-aaral and the tutor does the work for them, ganyan. And largely, yung tutorial session nila ay nagiging kwentuhan na lang, ganyan. So, at meron din mga tutor na hindi na napagkakatiwalaan with children. So, kaya sa akin, if you can afford it and there's reason for it, may valid reason for employing tutor, why not? Pero as parents, kailangan pa rin nating i-monitor what they are doing. No? Dana Sue Ubay Rojo, I would like to ask your insights about not making use of the usual numerical grading system. What do you suggest is appropriate for the home-based schooling where parents serve as substitute teachers? So, medyo tricky yung pagdating sa grading system. Kasi, meron man kasi, dahil ang home-based schooling natin talaga is, ang format natin is school at home. So largely, it's still regular curriculum, it's still the formal schooling. We're just operating it at home. So, kung ano yung grading system na in-employ ng school, syempre, yun pa rin sana ang gagamitin. Hindi naman dahil teacher ka, dahil parent ka, ikaw na yung mag-a-assess ng anak mo, di ba? Yung teacher pa din naman na mag-a-assess and they will still use the grading system that the school requires. Now, my opinion about other alternative means of assessment, marami naman kasing mga different means, but ito kasi talaga ay for parents, and parents don't assess. So, hindi, kung mag-a-assess tayo, it's really more of informal assessment lang, just to give feedback on our children's work, no? Pero ang formal assessment talaga will be done by the children, by the parents. So, if you're asking me about other forms of assessment as a teacher, no, marami naman iba't iba, no. I remember in the school where I used to teach, wala talaga kaming numerical grading system. So it's more descriptive ang grading system namin. Meron din, ang alala ko I used to teach in a Montessori school too. Meron lang kaming progress chart. What we really did was to just check yung mga skills that they're able to acquire. So it's just a list of skills. Tapos i-check natin kung mastered. Meron lang kaming system of notations kung mastered na ba siya, kung introductory concept pa lang ba siya. So meron kaming ganong checklist. So marami namang different ways of assessment. But then again, since ang webinar na ito ay para sa parents naman talaga don't formally assess. We are tutors, we assist. No? It's the teachers talaga who assess. Now, meron pa ako isang nakita kanina sa comment. Hindi ko lang nabasa kung kanino siya nanggaling. Kasi masyado mabilis yung flash ng mga pangalan. But there's one guardian who said na hanggang ngayon, malapit ng pasukan at lalo siyang natatakot no, na mag-start kasi hindi niya pa rin alam kung paano niya gagawin at ano ang gagawin niya. Again, this is really a valid feeling and I think that most of us feel the same way. Pero sa palagay ko, wala namang bagay na hindi nakukuha sa tiyaga at dedication at hard work. At dahil tayo ay mga magulang at mahal natin ang mga anak natin and we know how important this is for them, kahit gaano tayo ka-busy, magagawa natin ng paraan. So, yun lang po. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig at sana ang natutunan sa webinar na ito ay ma-apply talaga natin as we go through yung home-based learning, something new, something scary for all of us, pero kakayanin naman natin to dahil tulong-tulong naman tayo. So, yun lang po at muli, magandang umaga po sa lahat.